Hey, it's Denise, and I know it's been a while since I've done any sort of gardening video. So I'm in my hallway, which I had turned into my indoor gardening experiment area. And let me just show you what's changed. This is just to orient you to things. My upstairs hallway, the upstairs of my house, I'm standing on the top step just to give you some perspective. Yes, those are fly tape because up here in the mountains we get serious gnats and stuff in the spring, so they're icky, but they serve a purpose. So we've got my bedroom door, so when you come out in the hallway here, I've got an Aerogarden. This is one that has 2 feet of, as far as height. It's not the biggest, certainly, my XL, which I'll show you in a minute, the farm XL tall, it has 3 feet of space. So what I'm doing in here is actually pushing my luck a little bit. I wanted to try, though, the fairy tale eggplant, so I did order them. You get 3 of them in a package, and I put 2 of them in here just because eggplant can be pretty big, bushy plants. And I looked at a few videos of this particular variety and its growing habits, and it can get to be quite the bushy plant. So I didn't want to, as it is, I'm going to be pushing it with the height because they get to be about 2.5 feet tall. So I didn't want to try to crowd 3 of them. I have to say I was really happy with the germination on these. The third one I put in the Aerogarden, same type of Aerogarden that's on my kitchen counter downstairs. All 3 of them germinated, and all 3 of them germinated more than 1 seed. So after, once they were up and I could see that there was more than 1 plant, I'll bring it close here. Like you can see that second plant where I pinched it off, because you don't want to have more than 1 plant growing in each one, or they're just gonna crowd each other out. Same thing here. I don't know if you can see it as clearly. I think there were 3 of them growing in here, and I had to pinch off 2. So excellent germination, all 3 of them germinated. So I just started these, and we will see how they do. Fairy tale eggplant, if you're not familiar, is a very small, it's actually a beautiful plant. You could almost plant it as an ornamental if you wanted to, but it does produce these small, like 2 to 3 inch eggplants that are, from what I've seen, very tasty, and you would just cook them up in stir fries or however else you might want to use eggplant. Over here, sort of again, just to orient you, if you came out of my bedroom and looked straight across, this is a room that I pretty much right now I'm using for storage of my canning jars and some extra toilet paper, paper towels, things that are just kind of bulky and you need to store. I'm using that room for that. The giant forest here in the middle of the hallway is, you may recall, my very crazy idea of seeing if one could grow winter squash indoors. Just for perspective, maybe about 6, I guess this hallway is like 6 or 7 feet long, and then there's the other room that I pretty much use for storage, although I haven't been able to get to it for the last 3 weeks because my plants are trellised here. Here is, you see my hand here. This would be the side that's the banister there for the top of going, my stairs are right on the other side of that. So I had to attach this, what is it, like a foldable tomato cage. I attached it to the wall, and then I had to let the plant's doing some fabulous work of attaching itself to it once I used initially some garden twine to encourage it to grow up onto the trellis, because of course plant just wants to grow closer to the light source, so you have to keep kind of pulling it back away, and then it keeps growing back. For weeks I thought the only thing I was going to have was 1 fruit, which was a little bit depressing considering that I've given up my hallway and my access to my other storage room until this little project finishes, but things have gotten more promising. To start with, though, here's the most mature fruit, and it is, these are buttercup squash, not to be confused with butternut. These are more like an acorn squash, but smaller. So this one is, I would say, like a little bigger than a softball. It's probably hard to judge by, just the size of it next to my hand. But this is the most mature one. They don't get a lot bigger than this, and it's pretty much, I don't expect it to get much bigger. It's just finishing off at this point. And then for the longest, first of all, the couple other flowers that I hand pollinate, obviously. There's no bees here. And for the longest, the other blossoms that had come out at the same time as that, each one that I did, none of them took. They just rotted and died. They did not, the pollinating didn't take. So that's why I was saying for weeks, I thought, like, am I growing this entire jungle here to get one squash, which, would be kind of ridiculous. And then, I mean, you can see, I'll take you in closer. You can see all of the faded, dead, yellow, hanging, everything that looks like that yellow dead flower. And there are dozens of them throughout this jungle. Those are all male flowers, and there were just, like I said, dozens of them, but there weren't any female flowers. Then finally some new female flowers started. So my second one that actually took is down here. It's now getting to be a pretty decent size. You can see my hand behind it there. And just about a week ago, I was able to hand pollinate 2 more. And again, I say that, but they're obviously all hand pollinated because no bees. You can see them. They're, I'd say, about 1.5 times the size of a golf ball at this point, but the fact that they've gotten shiny and big instead of, can you see the second one back there? It's about the same size. It's the shiny thing that you see in the back. It's about the same size as this one. So those both took, and you can see another female flower starting to form there. I did yesterday do something that's like, death-defying gardening here. While it's annoying enough that I can't get to my other storage room for a few weeks, I felt like I really wanted to maximize, though, how much I got out of this once I saw that it wasn't just going to be the one. Because honestly, I was considering just ripping it out. I was like not going to continue gardening for months to get one squash. But once I saw that a couple others had started, I felt like, okay, I'm committed to seeing, this plant through for as long as it will produce. And so I ended up, like I showed you, my hand is on the top of the railing here at the top of my stairs. Well, there's no actual railing on my stairs, but this is like the shelf at the top of the stairs. So I was hanging on to this for dear life while, if you look down, the molding that runs along the top. This, as you can see, is maybe about 2 toes wide, 2 inches wide. I was standing with both feet on that and hanging onto the top so that I could step out a couple feet and be able to reach. And now I'm going to try to zoom a little bit here. It's not letting me zoom. There's a female flower at the far end. If I walk down the stairs, you're going to feel like you're going down the stairs with me. I'll try to hold the camera as still as I can. You can see there from the bottom of the blossom that it's a female flower. If you're not familiar with squash, female flowers you see like that, it looks almost like a baby squash, like the shape of a baby squash at the bottom before the flower part starts. That's how you know it's a female flower. And yes, I climbed out here like a lunatic so that I could lean over with the innards of a male flower. Actually, I took 2 just because if I was going to dangle over the stairs, I wanted to be sure I got it pollinated. So now I'm just waiting to see if it takes, and hopefully we'll have another squash starting to grow there. The plant goes down and around and is climbing up the door there. But you can see there are lots of little tiny flower buds starting to grow. Some of them are too small to know yet whether they're going to be male or female. But generally speaking, the male flowers are on a longer stem, and the ones that grow closer to the vine, you're more likely to get some female flowers. Male flower, my little collection here. Whenever I have extra male flowers, obviously not all of them because like I told you, they were growing by the dozens, but like yesterday, I took this one off and I just take off the outer petals and save. This is the part where the pollen is. As you can see, just by touching it, I'm getting pollen on my fingers. So you would use this to pollinate the inside of a female flower. And you can see on top of this jar, the pollen is just falling off them. So I don't know how fresh pollen has to be. I try to use a flower I just picked that day. But like I said, I always try to keep a couple extra. And just on the off chance there isn't a male flower opening on the day that a female flower opens. And I have successfully used like the pollen that's fallen off these to pollinate one of those that you saw in the back. So I don't know if it's very old, if it would do any good, but certainly a little bit old. Excuse me, my shoes just squeaked against each other. For comparison, in case again, if you're new to this, this is a male flower that hasn't opened yet. You can kind of see. I should probably be showing this from a better angle. But the bottom is just regular like a flower. You don't see anything shaped like a fruit, as opposed to one we looked at, which you definitely saw the shape of a fruit at the base. And again, this one is on a longer stem, and you generally see your female flowers much closer to the vine. That's it, I guess, for now. I'm happy. Like I said at first, I've been taking out some dead leaves and stuff too. Because of how crowded this is, it kind of, it reaches out and then it grabs the trellis, and then of course it's drawn back towards the sun. Some of those leaves are just huge that are right near the light. So it's getting plenty of energy. If you're interested, I can show you. I know looking in a pot of dirt is the most interesting thing, but where the plants are growing out of is this muck bucket, which you can see is a big plastic bucket. It's got those yellow is the like rope handles on either side. There are 3 plants growing out of this bucket. 1, 2, 3, and a 4th plant just by itself in a black bucket up here. 4. So 4 plants are interacting here in this jungle in my hallway. Again, you can see like more, like this is a young male flower growing. This is a bouquet of male flowers growing. See, there's nothing at the base of them. They're just a stem and a flower. I wish there was a female flower closer that I could get you a good look at. Because again, male. You see what I mean? They grow by the dozens. Yeah, the nearest female flower is kind of hidden behind. See, the one on the left is a female flower. It's got that round little bulge underneath the flower, whereas the one on the right is a male flower, and it does not have that. It just has a stem. So that's how you can tell if you're new to growing squash. Summer squash and winter squash, it's really the same with the flowers. And again, if you're growing indoors, remember you have to hand pollinate, because unless you have bees in your house, which I don't think anyone really wants to do. I'm adventurous with gardening, but I'm not attempting beekeeping inside my home. I just wanted to show you that. So the answer is yes, you can grow winter squash indoors. Would I do it the same way again? No, I would change the location. Would I do it again? Yes. But would I do it here in the hallway? No. I would definitely move my Aerogarden into one of the storage rooms, like against a wall, so that it could have the same lights and set up support around it for it to trellis, but without it becoming a solid wall that I can't get through. And like I said, I can't even get to that other room right now. But I would definitely, you know, now that I see, I just had to be patient. It took the plant a while, I guess, for the, I don't know, planets to align to its satisfaction, that it started sending off enough female flowers that it was worth it for the amount of squash that are actually starting to set. So yes, I would do this again. I would just choose a better location. But it does prove my my kind of theory at the beginning of, even in the small space, you know, inside, you know, an apartment, you can grow your own food. Downstairs, I told you, in the Aerogarden on the counter, I have the one other eggplant, the fairy tale eggplant, and I also have some dill and some parsley growing in that Aerogarden. I figure by the time the eggplant's getting big, the dill and parsley will, I'll have harvested plenty off of them. But again, just wanted to show you my my progress here, that yes, we are finally really growing multiple squash, and one that's practically ready to harvest down there at the bottom. And yeah, it's hard to get in there and clean out all of these dead leaves because of the crowding, and because, you know, with any kind of vining plant, one tear in the wrong place and you've disconnected, you know, 10 feet of vine from the plant, and everything, you know, from that point on is dead. So you have to be very careful. Once your vines start climbing all over, you have to be really careful not to, for a long time, before like this really got completely across and established, I could kind of get my feet in, you know, step in there and work on it. But as thick as the growth is back and forth between the two sides now, there's no way I would attempt to do that, because I'd be afraid I would snap something off, and once you snap it off from its roots, you've just killed the whole plant. So at this point, it's like, let it grow, keep my eye out for female flowers. Like I said, always seems to be an abundance of male flowers, but just in case there isn't, I've got my little secret stash of pollen over here, which I do try to freshen up every couple days. And again, it's doable. I would pick a better location, but I would definitely say, if you don't have the opportunity, one other huge benefit. Last year, I had a squash bug problem, to the point, problem like doesn't even cover it. Squash bugs decimated my zucchini and my winter squash last year. I got 2 spaghetti squash out of multiple plants of different varieties of summer and winter squash. 0 squash bugs when you're gardening indoors, which is really, really nice. Not finding, you know, bug eggs growing on the back of the leaves like you do outside. So, you know, the absence of pollinators, you could say, is a little bit annoying. You have to hand pollinate, but the absence of pest bugs is wonderful. So I hope that you found this helpful. Again, I'm using an Aerogarden Farm Tall, or XL Tall, I forget the exact name of it. It's the one that's 3 feet tall, and has you can see, because one's sort of tilted, 2 separate light panels. And I'm not actually using the Aerogarden. None of this is hydroponic at this point. I don't have anything growing in the Aerogarden. I showed you where the plants are actually growing from is soil. So at this point, I'm just using the Aerogarden purely for its lighting and its structure. That's it. And when I finally finish and see how many squash I grow, I will do another video and let you know.
Thank you and have a great day.